Welcome to Deeper Sleep. Let the soothing rhythms of storytelling weave their way through your consciousness, resting your body, calming your mind, and allowing you to ride the wings of your imagination into dreamland.
Axiu is a title from Cuentos De Liao Zhai, a collection of short stories in the literary language done by the Qing Dynasty novelist Pu Songling. There are two Ah Xiu in the novel. One is a folk maiden and the other is a fox fairy. Axiu, a folk girl, is very beautiful, and Axiu, a fox fairy, wants to be as beautiful as she is, so that a story that is both interesting and intriguing is performed. When Liu Zigu of Haizhou was 15 years old, he visited his uncle in Gai County. He saw a woman in the grocery store, beautiful, and fell in love with her. He quietly came to the store, pretending to buy a fan. The woman called her father. See her father out. Liu Zigu was very frustrated. Then deliberately with the old man, pressed a low price, went away. When he saw the woman's father go elsewhere, he returned to the store. The woman again to find her father. Liu Zigu, busy to stop, said, "Do not go to find, you just say a price. I do not care about the price." The woman listened to his words, deliberately said a high price. Liu Zigu couldn't bear to argue with her about the price, and gave her all the money he had and left. The next day, Liu Zigu came again, just like yesterday. Paid the money just out of a few steps. The woman chased him out and called him, "Come back. Just now I told a lie. The price is too high." She gave him back half of the money. Liu Zigu felt that she was more honest. After that, Liu Zigu often came to the store when her father was not around, and slowly got acquainted with her. The woman asked Liu Zigu, "Where do you live?" Liu Zigu told her the truth, and then asked her what her last name was. The woman said, "Surname Yam." When Liu Zigu was leaving, the woman wrapped his purchases in paper, and then licked the edges of the paper with the tip of her tongue and stuck it on. Liu Zigu harboring the package back to open, afraid of the woman's tongue marks messed up. After half a month, Liu Zig's behavior let the servant found, privately told his uncle, hard to let him back. Liu Zigu love earnest, not forgetting, the woman from the place to buy incense and powder and other things, secretly placed in a box, when no one. Closed the door to take things out to see again, touching the feelings, miss. The next year, Liu Zigu again to Gai County. Just put down the luggage, went to the store to find the woman. To see there, the store door closed tightly, Liu Zigu disappointed back. He thought that the woman and her father occasionally went out and did not come back. And the next day, he went there again early, and the store door was still closed. Liu Zigu asked the neighbors, only to learn that the Yao family was originally from Guanging, because business here is not good, so temporarily back to Guanging. Who does not know when they will return? Liu Zigu was frustrated and lost his mind. Stayed for a few days. It is unhappy to go home. Mother for him to propose marriage. He always stopped. The mother felt strange and angry. The servant secretly told his mother what had happened before, and she controlled him even more tightly. From then on, he could no longer go to Gai County. Liu Zigu was in a trance all day, unable to eat or sleep. The mother was so worried that she thought she might as well fulfill her son's wish. So, immediately chose a day, ready to travel. Let the son to Axiu to convey the mother's meaning. Let the uncle to ask someone to the Yao family to propose marriage. The uncle immediately went to the Yao family. After a while, the uncle came back and said to Liu Zigu, "It's no good. Axiu has already promised to Guanging people." Liu Zigu hung his head and was disheartened. After returning home, he held the box and sobbed. He often wandered around, wishing that there was a second Axiu in the world. At this time, a matchmaker came to propose marriage, praising the Huang family's girl in Fuzhou for her beauty. Liu Zigu was worried that the matchmaker's words were not true, so he ordered his servants to drive to Fuzhou to have a look. When Liu Zigu entered the west gate of the city, he saw a house facing north with 2 doors half open, and inside the door there was a girl who looked very much like Ah Xiu. The girl looked back as she walked and went in, and there was no mistaking it. Liu Zigu was greatly impressed, so he went to the neighbor's house in the east to inquire, and learned that the girl's surname was Li. Liu Zigu thought over and over again, puzzled. How can there be such a resemblance in the world? Stayed a few days, but did not find the opportunity to see the girl. He only stared at the door of the girl's house, hoping that the girl would still come out. One day, when the sun was about to set, the girl did come out. Suddenly, she saw Liu Zigu, immediately turned back, pointed behind her with her finger, put her palm on her forehead, and then went into the house. Liu Zigu was very happy, but did not know what the girl meant. After pondering for a while, he walked to the back of her house, only to see a deserted garden silent and empty. There is a short wall on the west side, only shoulder high. Liu Zigu understood the meaning of the girl, so he squatted down and hid in the bushes. After a long time, someone showed his head from the wall and whispered, "Is it coming?" Liu Zigu promised to get up and took a closer look. It was really Ah Xiu. He was so grieved that his tears fell like rain. The girl, through the wall, probed and wiped his tears with a towel, comforting him constantly. Liu Zigu said, "I have tried every possible means and my wish has not been realized, thinking that there is no hope for me in this life. How could I think that there would be another day?" "How did you come here?" the girl said. "Li's my cousin's uncle." Liu Zigu invited Ah Xiu to come over the wall, and Ah Xiu said, "Go back first. Send the servants to live elsewhere. I'll arrive by myself." Liu Zigu obeyed her words and sat at home waiting. And a while later, Ah Xiu came quietly. There was no heavy makeup, and her robe and pants were still the same as those she had worn before. Liu Zigu took her by the arm and sat down, telling her in detail about her pain of longing. Then asked, "You have been promised to someone. How come you have not yet passed the door?" Axiu said, "It is a lie to say that I have been promised to someone. My father is unwilling to marry you because your home is too far away, so he asked your uncle to lie to you with falsehoods to discourage you." After saying that, the two of them went to bed and lay down, male and female love, unspeakable. Just after the fourth watch, Ah Xiu got up in a hurry and went away over the wall. Liu Zigu since then no longer think about the Huang family girl. Live here, forget to go back. It has been a month, and he still doesn't go home. One night, the servant got up to feed the horses, and saw that the light was still on in Liu Zig's room. He took a peek and saw that it was Ah Xiu, and was very shocked, but he didn't dare to tell his master about it. Early the next morning, the servant went to the marketplace to make some inquiries, and then went back to ask Liu Zigu, "Who was the man you were with at night?" Liu Zigu was reluctant to tell him at first. The servant said, "This house is too cold. It is a place where ghosts and foxes gather. How did the girl of his Xiu family come here?" Liu Zigu was embarrassed and said, "The west neighbor is her cousin uncle. What is there to suspect?" The servant said, "I have visited in detail. There is only a lonely old lady in the east neighbor, and there is only a child in the family to the west, and there are no relatives living in the house. What you have encountered must be a ghost, otherwise, how can you wear clothes for several years and not change them? Besides, her face is too white, her cheeks are slightly thin, and she has no dimples when she smiles, so she is not as beautiful as Ah Xiu." Liu Zigu thought about it over and over again before saying with great fear, "What then?" The servant plotted and said to wait for her to come and beat her piece by piece with a guy. After dark, the girl came and said to Liu Zigu, "I know you suspect me, but I don't mean anything else, but I just want to fulfill my past destiny." Before he finished speaking, the servant pushed in the door, and the girl scolded him loudly, "Throw away your fellow. Quickly set out the wine, and I will bid farewell to your master." Upon hearing this, the servant threw away his weapons, as if someone had taken them away. Liu Zigu was even more afraid and reluctantly set up the banquet. The girl talked and laughed as usual, and raised her hand to point at Liu Zigu, saying, "Knowing what is on your mind, I was planning to do my humble best to serve you. So why do you want to harm me secretly? Although I am not Ah Xiu, I think I am no worse than Ah Xiu. Do you see that I am really inferior to the one you used to be?" Liu Zigu was so frightened that his hair stood on end, and he could not speak. The girl listened to the beating of the third watch, took a sip from her wine cup, stood up and said, "I'm leaving for now. After your wedding, I will compare beauty with my new daughter-in-law." He turned around and disappeared. Liu Zigu listened to the words of the fox spirits and ran to Axiu County complaining that his uncle had lied to him and did not want to live in his uncle's house. He moved to live in the neighboring Yao's house and asked a matchmaker to offer him a marriage, impressing the Yao family with a generous bride price. Yao's wife said, "My brother-in-law has chosen a son-in-law for Ah Xiu in Guanging, and Ah Xiu's father has gone to Guanging for this purpose, so we don't know whether it is a success or not. We must wait for his return, and then discuss with him." Liu Zigu heard these words, fearful, no idea, had to stick here and wait for them to come back. After 10 days, I suddenly heard that there was going to be a war. At first, Liu Zigu suspected blackmail. Time is long, only to know is true. He hurriedly packed up and left. In the middle of the war, the master and his servant were separated, and Liu Zigu was caught by an army outpost. The soldiers thought that Liu Zigu was a weak scholar, so they neglected to guard him. So Liu Zigu stole a horse and escaped. When he arrived at the border of Haizhou, he saw a woman with a disheveled head and a difficult gait, who could hardly walk. As Liu Zigu rode past her, the woman suddenly cried out, "Isn't the man on the horse Liu Lang?" Liu Zigu stopped his horse to take a closer look at her, and it turned out to be Axiu. He was still afraid that she was a fox and said, "Are you really Ah Xiu?" The woman asked, "Why do you say such things?" Liu Zigu told him what he had encountered. The woman said, "I am really Ah Xiu. My father brought me back from Guanging and was caught by soldiers on the way. They gave me a horse to ride, but I kept falling off the horse. Suddenly, there was a woman holding my wrist and pulling me to escape, and we scurried through the army without being questioned. The woman ran as fast as an eagle, and I couldn't keep up even if I ran as hard as I could, running 110 steps to lose several times shoes. After running for a long time, I heard the people shouting and the horses calling in the distance, and the girl let go of my hand and said, 'Farewell. The road ahead is smooth, you can walk slowly. The one who loves you is coming, go home with her.'" Liu Zigu realized that the woman was a fox and was very grateful to her. Liu Zigu then told Axiu the reason why he stayed in Gai County, and Axiu said that his uncle had proposed a son-in-law surnamed Fang for her in Guanging, and that the war started before the bride price could be sent. Liu Zigu then realized that what his uncle said was not a lie. He carried Axiu to the horse, and the two rode back home on a horse. Entering the door and seeing his old mother safe and sound, Liu Zigu was happy. He tied up the horse and told his mother what had happened before and after. His mother was also very happy and hurried to dress up Ah Xiu. When she was done, Ah Xiu looked radiant, and her mother clapped her hands and said, "No wonder my foolish son can't forget you in his dreams." Then they spread out the bedding and let Ah Xiu sleep with them. They sent another man to Gai County to deliver a letter to the Yao family. In a few days, the Yao family came together, chose an auspicious date for the wedding, and went back. Liu Zigu took out the collection of the box. The contents of the original seal did not move. There is a box of powder. Open it and see. Lipstick has turned into red clay. Liu Zigu is very strange. Axiu covered the mouth and said with a smile, "A few years ago the scam. You only realized today. At that time, I saw that you let me give you packages and never checked whether they were real or fake. So I played a joke on you." While laughing and joking, a person lifted the door curtain and came in and said, "You guys are so happy. You should thank the matchmaker, right?" Liu Zigu took a look. Another Axiu hurriedly called out to his mother. His mother and family members came. None of them could recognize the real or fake. Liu Zigu looked back and was confused. He looked for a long time before he bowed to an Ah Xiu and thanked her. Axiu asked for a mirror to look at herself, turned shyly and ran away. And when they looked for her again, there was no trace of her. Mr. and Mrs. Liu Zigu was so grateful for her kindness that they set up a shrine in their house to worship her. One night, Liu Zigu came home drunk and the house was dark. He was just about to light the lamp himself when Ah Xiu came. Liu Zigu pulled her and asked, "Where have you been?" Ah Xiu smiled and said, "Look at you drunk like this, stinking, really annoying. You interrogate people like this. Could it be that I went on a rendezvous with a man?" Liu Zigu smiled and cupped her cheeks. Ah Xiu said, "Do you see who is beautiful between me and Sister Fox?" Liu Zigu said, "You are better than her, but you can't tell just by looking at the outside." Saying this, he closed the door and the two made out. When someone called the door a while later, Ah Xiu got up and said with a smile, "You are also a person who only looks at the appearance." Liu Zigu did not understand what she meant and went to open the door, but it was Ah Xiu who came in. He was very startled and realized that the one just now was a fox. In the darkness, he heard laughter again, and the Liu Zigu couple looked into the air and prayed, praying for the fox to show up. The fox said, "I don't want to see Ah Xiu." Liu Zigu asked, "Why don't you change your appearance?" The fox said, "I can't." Liu Zigu asked, "Why can't you?" The fox said, "Ah Xiu is my sister, who unfortunately died young in her previous life. When she was alive, she and I went to the heavenly palace with our mother and met the Queen Mother of the West, whom we both secretly adored. When we returned home, we carefully imitated the Queen Mother of the West. My younger sister was smarter than me, and in only 1 month, she learned to imitate her very well. I learned to imitate her only after 3 months, but I could never catch up with my sister. Now that another life has passed, I thought I had surpassed her, but I didn't realize that it was still the same as before. I am grateful to you both for your sincerity, so I will come from time to time hereafter. Now I am going." So no more words were spoken. From then on, the fox came once in 3 or 5 days. All the difficult matters at home were solved. Whenever she returned to our mother's house, the fox used to come and stay for a few days, and the family avoided her in fear. Whenever something was lost in the house, she dressed up neatly, stood upright, with a tortoise-shell hairpin a few inches long stuck in her head, and summoned the family to come and solemnly tell them, "What has been stolen must be returned to its original place this evening. Otherwise, there will be a great headache, and it will be too late to regret it." When morning came, the stolen thing would indeed be seen in its original place. 3 years later, the fox did not come again, and the family occasionally lost gold and silver and other valuable things. Ah Xiu imitated the fox's makeup practice to scare the family, but also often effective.